Treasury right now, Johnny, it is starting to fall. You're starting to hear a little bit of good news. So I'm not here to say that mortgage rates are going higher or lower. I think we're seeing right now this rise has sort of caused the market to go into a little bit of what just happened, and we're starting to see that plateau in rates. I'd be making a video on it, Johnny. I'd be getting this information out there so that you can be the expert on what's happening.
I think the coolest part, click on the little sandwich button, scroll down, you can see your members, all the events, but the mini master classes, that's what's going to set this apart, along with the master classes that are coming. But now you can click on the mini master class that you like. It's broken down into sections. You've got the process here. You can scroll down, watch the video if you want. They're not very long. They're about 5 minutes each. And you can go and click on the PDF, and there you have all the notes for that specific mini master class. To me,
hey everybody, welcome to our bi-monthly. Is it bi-monthly? Is that the right? Twice a month. Our bi-monthly.
I know that.
All right, twice a month conversation with David Childers from Keeping Current Matters, where we talk about what's going on with mainly the economic data of the market and the key indicators that decide where we're going. And so we're going to have a great conversation today. I know we are, because some of the things that we're talking about earlier, like, oh my God, the market's crashing. But we're going to talk about some really cool things, getting back to normal. And David, man, welcome. How are you?
Thank you. It's good to be back. It's always fun to do these on Fridays, Johnny. And, for the last, how long has it been? A year and a half, whatever it's been. We've done these. Good to be back together with everybody. And, really more than anything, what we want to do is we want to give you the facts about what's happening in the market, right? Johnny, you mentioned all the people talking about a correction, talking about a crash, talking about the market shifting, talking about all those things. We want to bring you the facts so that you have what you need to be the knowledge broker. We always say be the most educated agent on these topics, and that's our goal, Johnny. When we talk about these, is to say, okay, what is happening? Let's look at some facts and figures, so that I always say, have relevant market opinion based upon facts. And I think now more than ever, in the market that we're in, that's needed.
I think we need to take a page from Carfax, and what we need to do is get you like a big furry fox hair, and then we can say, show me the home fox. Show me the home facts.
Right. Yeah.
All right, that's my cheesy dad joke of the day.
Keep throwing ideas out there, Johnny. We'll want to land now. I think, listen, right now where we're at, everything, that we've seen over the last couple of years in real estate, coming out of that, all the, the Fed, their action, just a lot going on and a lot of questions. I think we need to take these questions seriously. There was an article published, I think it was a couple of weeks ago. I don't know if you saw it, Johnny. It was in Inman or somewhere else. It said the first rule of a crash or something like that is you don't talk about it in our business. We're here to talk about it. Let's talk about some of those things. As always, too, anybody that's watching on the Zoom or that's on Facebook, if you have questions as we talk, ask those questions. We'll get into them. It's always so good to see folks that join. Let us know where you're watching from as well as we go throughout the day.
Absolutely. So what are we seeing out there? I know that there's a lot of news out there. I think you're going to touch on some of these things with rates, with sales or pending sales and these types of things. But we're also going to look at some historical data that shows that it's not cause for alarm. Sure. It's just not cause for alarm. I do want to point out one thing. I was doing a presentation or working on a presentation the other day, and I pulled up real estate agents or realtors, I guess I should say. And we're at the highest point of realtors than we've ever been, right? So they're not only is do we have what's happening in the market to be considered as considerations, but we also have more competition, right? So these are just real facts. So let's start to break down some things. What do you got for us?
Yep. So let's talk about that. I think, I was thinking about our time together this morning and put together a couple of slides. Me, I always have to have the visual component. I believe a visual in today's world does just as much, to communicate a message as anything we could do. And it feels like in the last few weeks there's been a change in the tone of many agents, certainly a change in the tone of what's been happening in the market, and I think rightfully so. I think we're seeing some shifts happen, but I want to break that down, and I guess, Johnny, here would be my first point. I'll share these slides. As always, if you want these slides, I'll send them to you. You can email me, David at Keeping Current Matters. I'll send those over to you. But it's all about mortgage rates right now. Okay, that's what's been the story in this business since the beginning of the year. Okay, and we talked about that last time we were together. But I have a couple of observations that I want to give you so that you can bring this advice to the clients that you serve. Okay. So let me start to break this down. Every week we look at the Freddie Mac Weekly Mortgage Monitor, which sort of outlines where mortgage rates are at. This past week, 5.1% that came out yesterday, the average 30-year fixed. Sam Cater, their chief economist, said this: mortgage rates decreased for the second week in a row due to multiple headwinds the economy is facing. And he went on to say, despite the recent moderation in rates, the housing market has clearly slowed, and the deceleration is spreading to other segments of the economy, such as consumer spending and durable goods. The week before that, the 19th, he said economic uncertainty is causing mortgage rate volatility. And that's the bottom line, right? I think people want to go deeper into this and want to say, what is it? It's economic uncertainty, and it's causing mortgage rate volatility. And so that's what we want to sort of focus on right now. And I'm going to break it down for you. Again, I go back to what this looks like: 5.1% on the average 30-year fixed. I highlighted there in red the 15-year and the 5-year adjustable rate. I think they're pricing really good. We were having a conversation before we went live just about adjustable rate mortgages. I think you're going to see more adjustable rate mortgages in the market in the coming months. We already are in applications. And remember, back in 2008, adjustable rate mortgages got a bad name. And there were a lot of people who were speculatively buying homes they couldn't afford, and doing that at 100% financing. The market adjusted. They didn't have the equity in the homes that people have today, and they walked. The term of strategic default was kind of born during that time. But I like the pricing on an adjustable rate mortgage if it's the right thing for the consumer, right? There's not a bad financial product. There have been misused financial products, but I think you'll see more and more arms come back in as people start to figure out the best way to manage the debt of buying a home and the shock and the rise of interest rates. But let's talk about that shock, because it's definitely having an impact in the market. We said, Johnny, the rising interest rates will moderate the market. If we look at this, since the first of the year, this is a look that we've looked at several weeks here that we've done this. We started off the year about 3.1%. Actually, on December 30th, the average 30-year fixed was 3.1%, shot up to over 5%, through April. But here's an interesting thing that sort of sticks out right now, is we're sort of moving sideways for the last several weeks. And we had this just giant kind of quickly and swiftly and quickly rise in the average 30-year fixed. And then we've sort of plateaued. I'm going to call 5.1, 5.2, 5 sort of plateauing there. Couple of things I'll tell you right now. Absolutely. People that follow interest rates, the experts, they don't know what's going to happen, because we follow them and we watch them every day. Second thing I'll tell you, the market right now is looking for some good news. What could that be? That could be, have we peaked in inflation? Is economic and geopolitical uncertainty, the war in Ukraine, is there something, the resolution coming to that? What's the Fed going to do? The market is clearly looking for good news, but just an interesting observation that we've sort of plateaued for the last few weeks. I don't have a crystal ball. I'm not here to do that. Trying to predict the lowest rate, I think right now, or try to catch the market is a fool's game. If you look at where we stand still in the average 30-year fixed, I would be using this graphic right here. 5.1%, well above where we've been in the last decade. We need to acknowledge that, people. If you've gotten into the business in the last 10 years, if you haven't been around real estate for that long, then you feel that high rate environment. But where we are as well is lower than we've been in every decade, going all the way back to the 70s in home financing. So something important to keep in mind there. And I'll take sort of a pit stop here for a minute, because I think this is a big topic that I want to bring up in what I see agents doing right now or getting hung up on in everything happening. And it's this topic right here: perfect advice versus expert advice. And Johnny, I think we've talked about this before. You know, nobody in the world in any scenario is able to give you perfect advice.
No.
They can give you their expert advice. And, you know, we think about that. I've got a picture here. Try to get a picture of an agent with a, you know, with an iPad. Because if I was out there today, I would have these graphics on an iPad. I would have them on my phone so that I could show people what's happening in the market and say, hey, I subscribe to a service, or I get this information on a weekly basis so that I can keep you up to date. But nobody's able to give you perfect advice.
No.
Go to the doctor and they diagnose what's going on with you, and they're going to say, this is going to be the treatment. Then you're going to come back in a couple of weeks or a month, and they're going to say, this is what's going on. Here's the treatment we recommend. Same with an attorney. You go see an attorney. They're going to say, here's what we see in the case. Here's what we're, you know, how we're going to defend it. All right, you're going to go through, you know, maybe a court proceeding or something like that. Certainly hope that doesn't happen to anyone. But if that does, they're going to come back again and say, okay, this is what we see. Here's our next step, right? And that's our job. It's bringing an expert opinion to what's happening. So, you know, I'm not going to belabor that point, but don't get hung up right now on perfect advice. What if I say something and it's different? Well, you can trust what experts are saying. You can trust the facts that we're bringing to you. You want to know where the 30-year fixed mortgage market's going? Watch the 10-year Treasury yield. For the last 50 years, the 30-year fixed mortgage rate has followed the 10-year Treasury yield. I've shown this slide before. This is nothing new, all the way up through last year. And what do we know about the 10-year Treasury right now, Johnny? It is starting to fall. You're starting to hear a little bit of good news. So I'm not here to say that mortgage rates are going higher or lower. I think we're seeing right now this rise has sort of caused the market to go into a little bit of what just happened, and we're starting to see that plateau in rates. I'd be making a video on it, Johnny. I'd be getting this information out there so that you can be the expert on what's happening.
Yeah, and I'm just going to parlay a little bit on that and change words around just because, you know, I do that, I guess. But consider it uneducated versus educated opinion at the same time, right? So if you're going to give anybody any kind of advice, you got to be educated. You got to be educated in fact to be able to give them that advice. So understanding the slides, studying the slides, and sharing the slides, you're educating yourself to give that expert opinion. How can you give an expert opinion if you're uneducated in the facts, right? So don't, it doesn't matter what you think. It really doesn't matter what us as agents think. It doesn't matter what we want it to be. What matters is what it is. And so take a look at these slides because everything is tracked. So,
yeah, absolutely. And I think this is right now what we need to do. We need to get expert opinions because people, I think in the world, when they read an article, when they see the news, they're not sure what to believe. They're like, does this have an opinion base? Is this slanted? Certainly at KCM, we are pro agent, we are pro home ownership, unapologetically. And we're also very much committed to being the educator in the market. And I think right now, after everything we've gone through with COVID and everything, being the educator is refreshing for people. Going out there and educating them about what's happening in the housing market. It's going to do more than anything to build trust and credibility with clients than anything I know.
Well, yeah, because you know, what Keeping Current Matters gives you is a set of tools that the consumer doesn't necessarily, I mean, yes, they have access to all the data, right? Yeah. But it's just like agents, they have to go compile it. Yep. So then what happens is you take the path of least resistance and you Google it. And then whoever's got the best website comes up, you click on it, and then all of a sudden there you go. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's right. Most of these things are clickbaity to try to get you in there, get your information, whatever it is. But when you can have a conversation, because a lot of people really do want to talk about what's happening, because there is a lot of uncertainty with what's going on in the economy. And real estate is, I don't know if it's the number one, but it's top 3 drivers of the economy. Okay. And yeah, it's a very high driver of the economy. So people want to know what's going on with one of the key drivers of the economy.
Yeah,
That's you. Be an expert.
Mm-hmm. So
Study it.
let's talk about that. You talk about a key driver in the economy. There's clearly indications. What have you seen in a lot of the top line headlines? Existing home sales have fallen, right? It's out there everywhere. It's prompting this question right here. I'll go back to the slides for a minute. Are we in a housing market correction? Okay. And I think there's a lot of videos being filmed. Is the housing market going to crash? And there's certainly, if you're in this business, you can read a lot on there's not a crash coming. But this sort of buzz is very much out there. And I want to answer this in a definitive way. No, we're not in a housing market correction. And I want to give you the confidence to answer that question as well. Because I think some people are like, well, it could be, maybe, who knows? No, we're not in a housing market correction. Why am I so confident in that? Well, let's break down, what does Investopedia say a correction is? A correction is a decline of 10% or greater in the price of a security, asset, or financial market. Talk about the stock market. Is the stock market in correction? That's certainly a common term in financial markets. Certainly the housing market, the biggest asset most people own. We're not in a decline of 10%. Matter of fact, we've talked about this slide here, Johnny. What are experts saying? Homes are going to appreciate this year about 9%. And that is not a decline. There's nobody calling for a decline. So just a little bit of clarification there. We are not in a correction in the housing market. Here's the best way I know how to just describe this or explain it. And here's what I would be saying right now. Danielle Hale from Realtor.com, chief economist. The housing market is at a turning point. We're starting to see signs of a new direction, but the ball is still in the seller's courts in most housing markets. Why is this important? Well, what we've said all along is rising interest rates will moderate the market. They'll moderate demand and they'll moderate price appreciation. And that's exactly happening. And oh, by the way, Johnny, what are the two things we've been praying for the last couple of years? Right? Mm-hmm. This unsustainable demand out there would be quelled, and that homes, rising at an, unsustainable rate would start to, slow down a little bit. Mm-hmm. And we're seeing exactly that happen. Let's go back to what I started off with. It's all about rising interest rates. That's what's caused that.
Yeah. So normalization is not a crash.
Totally. Yeah. So you start to go back and you say, okay, rising interest rates are moderating the market. Let me give you a couple of visuals and a couple of reminders if you're still, kind of saying, I'm not sure. Okay. First, let's look at showing time. Now, this is as of March. This is the most recent information that I've been given, and you can drop in the chats that this is 2 months old and it doesn't matter. And I agree with you, and let's agree on that. But I want to make a point. This is going all the way back to January of 2020. And if you start to look at where we were in January 2020, I've drawn a line there that says pre-pandemic demand. We are going back to pre-pandemic demand. We're going to see that fall as that, as April and May come out, no doubt. But we're going back to a time that's very similar, I believe, to where we were pre-pandemic. We're coming out of 2 years of a frenzy in the housing market, interest rates lower than we've ever seen them, the meaning of home changing for everybody in the country. And we're going back to where we were. And we have to keep that in mind for ourselves, maybe a conversation we've had with somebody in our office. For the folks that we're serving, for the buyers and sellers, we have to remind them of that. Okay, so that's a look at demand. Let's look at existing home sales. Okay, oh, by the way, where are we going here? It just came out in April, 5.6 million on seasonally adjusted home sales in this country. Where are we going? Back to this pre-pandemic level. And that's even lower than where we're at. Most projections all in, now this is just existing homes, but all in with new homes are somewhere between 6.5 and 6.9. We sold 6.9 million homes in this country last year. And depending on who you look at, they're forecasting somewhere, less than that, in that range of 6.5 to 6.9. Okay. So when you look at demand, you look at the number of homes sold, we're heading back to an area very similar to what I'm going to call the normal years of 17, 18, and 19 before we went into the pandemic. Okay. a couple of reminders about that. And these are important reminders. This is all April data. It's the most recent data that's out there in the market. Average days on market across the country, 17 days. That's not a market correction. That's not something happening and go, oh my gosh, we can't sell any of these homes. 17 days. Okay, we'll see what May comes in with, and we'll see if that creeps up. We'll see what happens there. But we're still in a very, very fast moving market. And the number of offers on a home as of April, 5.5 offers on average on a home across the country. So just a couple reminders, Johnny, as we just sort of look at the facts of the market. We started this time off by talking about what are the facts happening. Those are the facts about what's happening out in the market.
That last slide has me thinking I need to move to Vermont, not Maine.
Yeah. I mean, still seeing a lot of folks out there transacting. And I would ask people that are watching, what are you seeing? Seeing it, inventory rise in your market? Are you seeing folks, less offers on a home? What are you seeing out there? And Johnny, I don't know if all the people you talk to and that you're in communication with, what they're seeing, but that's what the national numbers show us right now.
So the thing about that, right, not the last slide, but the slide before that, I think it was, where it showed that the number of sales might be down, but we're still above the line. So again, here they are with their clickbait headlines. Oh, our market dropped 9.3% sales, blah, blah, blah. You have to understand, do not be inspired. Don't be inculcated by the headlines, because the headlines are there only to engage, for you to clickbait. Get the real facts. And that's why I love this stuff, because it takes that headline and breaks it apart, and you're able to see the truth. We might be down from this mammoth peak, but we're still ahead of normal. So there's nothing to worry about. There's nothing to worry about. And there's some markets out there that they're still ridiculously busy, right? Certain parts of Florida, certain parts of California, ridiculously busy, right? Apparently Maine is ridiculously busy with 5+ offers per property. And I know that because I was looking at a house up there and I was watching, and I was talking to the listing agent, and they ended up getting three offers, middle of Maine, middle of nowhere, three offers. And I'm just like, wow, it's pretty interesting. So don't listen to the headline, dig deep, get the real information. Right. And listen, I'm going to say something. I know I talk a lot about doing videos each week and using Keeping Current Matters information. What I'm seeing everybody do on social media right now, on YouTube in particular, is like, oh, the market's crashing. What does that mean for you? And all these selling fear, right? Selling misinformation. I would be coming out as the anti-crasher, being, listen, y'all think the market's crashing, but it's not. And I'm going to give you 3 reasons right now from Keeping Current Matters on the economical data why it's not. Right. See, look at this headline, says the market crashing. Look at this headline that says that we're down 5.9%, 9.7%. But here's the truth, right? Because people want to hear that,
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right. Got another couple slides I'll show here and wrap up. Probably one of the things that is at fever pitch right now is economists calling for recession. Many people say, okay, the Fed's action, are they going to kind of overcook this correction? Are they going to pull things back too far and go into a recession? That's probably one of the top line, questions you see in the news, the media. Folks are sort of, in frenzy about and concerned about. I'm not saying they shouldn't be concerned. Recession, typically means hardship and people lose their jobs. We don't want that for anyone. Certainly don't want that. But a couple of reminders that I want to give you here. Recession, let me share this. Recession doesn't equal a housing crisis. You've heard me say that many, many times, but I'll tell you this. Every time somebody hears recession, they think housing crisis. And we need to get vocal about that. We need to get vocal about the fact that it doesn't mean housing crisis. I can't stress that enough. And one thing I worry about, Johnny, is sort of the curse of knowledge. We talk about a lot of this in our business. Many of you on this call today talk about it, and that. don't assume just because you know that the clients you're serving know that. Don't assume that they have the knowledge and the understanding of what's going on that you know. And don't assume just because you said it one time or you made one video that they got it. Right? What are the facts about education? It takes us like 7 times, probably takes me 10 times to get something, you know, to hear it and for it to sink in.
Yeah. And I would add to that. Don't try to talk like it's a thesis. I've been taught to present on a 6th grade level.
Sure. Absolutely.
And so dumb it down a little bit.
Yep. Yeah.
Dumb it down a little bit and talk factual, but slow it down a little bit.
Yeah.
I like to use big words, inculcate, because I learned what they were one time, you know what I mean? But you can't use that with most people, you know. No. You gotta, doctrination would be another word, right? But take this information, kind of soften it up a little bit.
Yep.
Right?
No,
but yeah, recession, because there's 373 million people in this country that need a place to live. That ain't gonna change because numbers go up or down.
So
right.
Let me speak to that, because I think that point you just made, Johnny, people need a place to live. Let me give you one quote and then a graphic that I'd be using everywhere right now. First quote from realtor.com. Experts don't believe the market is in a bubble or crash is in the cards, like the Great Recession. The nation is still suffering from a housing shortage that has reached crisis proportions at a time when many millennials are reaching the age when they start to consider homeownership. And that's likely to keep prices high. Remember that. Use that perspective. Take a picture of that. You know, you'll have that on your phone, maybe if you have a conversation about what's happening in the housing market with somebody, because that's the reality of real estate right now. The other fact is what we just talked about is recession doesn't equal a housing crisis. Many that have followed KCM maybe have seen this slide or seen it in the past, but it's updated as of 2020, going all the way back to the 80s. And what we did is we went and looked at each recession and said what happened during that, to home prices. And we found 4 of the 6 recessions, home prices actually appreciated. Twice they lost value, one time in the early 90s, marginally less than 2%. But what everybody remembers is 2008, when homes lost almost 20% value, when people, maybe a family member, a loved one, had to get out of their home and people were hurt and they don't want to go back there. But you think about what First American said coming out of the pandemic, early this year. The average equity in a home today is over $300,000. That's the average. Nobody's walking away from $300,000. There's not this crisis coming, and certainly if we go into recession, don't want that. Don't wish that upon any of us or the hardships that could come with that. But it doesn't equal housing crisis. It doesn't equal a reduction in home values. And so I think having that perspective for consumers is really, really important right now, because every time they hear it in the headlines, every time they hear it on the news, they think, here we go again. And oh, by the way, there's a lot of evidence in the rearview mirror to say home prices have been, out of control for the last couple of years. You have to almost, get into an auction scenario when you're buying a home. And people are like, that doesn't sound right. And oh, by the way, we're going to slow down economically, and people are feeling economic slowdown. People are feeling the effects of inflation, and they come to that conclusion in their mind. It's our job to be the educator.
It's our job to be the educator. The housing market is not like crypto. We're not going to lose $1 trillion in an hour.
No comment.
Oh yeah. So that had an impact on some people, I'm sure. But not me. I'm okay. But listen, man, a lot of good information. You can get these slides that David's sharing by emailing them at david@keepingcurrentmatters.com. You can try Keeping Current Matters if you're not a current subscriber by going to trykcm.com. Is that right?
Trykcm.com. You can start a free 14-day trial. And listen, I always say this, and I mean it every time. We're coming upon some choppy times. I would have the information at my fingertips. If you haven't started a free trial or have wondered about that, go ahead and do it. There's no commitment. You can stop at any time.
And if you have TikTok, follow Keeping Current Matters, because they are putting out some great videos. Not just you. I see other people doing it now too.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so be inspired about what they're doing and talking about the housing market. Sprinkle in your local data too, right? Talk about the national level, drill it down to the state level, drill it down to your region. Right?
Absolutely.
But be the educated agent. There's 1.65 million realtors out there, or 1.56, one of the two. A lot of you got to stand out one way. Somehow, if you look at your area, how many realtors are there? A whole bunch. And so you got to stand out, be a little bit different, be an educator. By doing these videos, by using this data, you're able to put it across YouTube, Google, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, what's the other one? TikTok. You're able to put it on your website as a blog, put it out into a newsletter. This is digital marketing, social and digital marketing. Use this information to stand out above everybody else who was just sitting there waiting for the entitlement.
Yep, you're right.
That's what I got to say. David, any final words?
I think being the educator, I'll end where we started, is our job right now. Dave Ramsey said when people are looking for a major purchase in life, whether it's insurance, it's a mortgage, it's buying a car, look for someone with the heart of a teacher, not the heart of a salesperson. And I would encourage you to have the heart of a teacher, educate clients on what's happening right now, because they don't know what to believe. They don't know what's going on in the market, and we can be that. And using technology like this, where we're at, Johnny, hop on a Zoom, do something like that. Grab a lender partner and do something, a Zoom together, a title partner, whatever the case may be, and get the information out there.
Absolutely. And I'm going to say this, y'all are getting paid thousands of dollars. Educate yourself.
Yeah.
Educate yourself, right? Be that person. Anyways, David, awesome. Go to trykcm.com. Email David at keepingcurrentmatters.com if you want these slides. Besides that, follow Keeping Current Matters on TikTok.
Yeah, absolutely.
Follow LabCoatAgents too. Peace out, everybody.
All right. See you in a couple weeks, Johnny.
All right. Bye. Happy Memorial Day, everybody. Well, not really happy Memorial Day, but have a safe Memorial Day, everybody.
Yeah, sure. All right. Take care.
Peace out.